Sir, Commander Skywalker hasn't come in the south entrance. He might have forgotten to check in.
Not likely. Are the speeders ready?
Not yet. We're having some trouble adapting them to the cold.
We'll have to go out on Tauntaun.
Sir, the temperature's dropping too rapidly.
That's right. My friend's out in it.
I'll cover Section 12.
Your Tauntaun will freeze before you reach the first marker.
Then I'll see you in hell.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
This is Cheapseat Reviews.
It's a little known fact that I was in Star Wars.
Darth Vader plays his hand.
That it needed to be a giant diaper.
Hello, and thank you for listening to Cheap Seat Reviews, the podcast that explores the Hollywood film industry for the greater good.
The greater good.
Nice. That's pretty good. Good. This is episode 371, and tonight we're talking about Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back. We are in week 2 of our 3-part Star Wars trilogy. Whatever the word I'm looking for. Series. I wanted to say phenomenon, like but that's not the right word. Phenomenon's definitely not the right word. Trilogy,
well,
I guess.
Was back then.
You're right. That is true. Ooh, that's a different voice than what we're used to hearing. I guess we'll find out who that is in just a second. I am Sean Allred. In fact, if I was ever going to give myself a middle name, it would be I am Sean. I apologize. I'm sick. Yes, you can still get a cold even though we all wear masks. Allred. Oh my gosh, I have a cold. I'm sorry. My voice is going to sound weird. But
God, you sound like trash.
I know. I feel like it. Like garbage in which heat has been applied to. Yeah, that's me right now.
Actually, you don't sound that bad, to be honest. I'm not going to lie.
Well, good. I mean, as long as I'm not unlistenable. That's not a word either.
Well, that doesn't.
And I thought they smelled bad on the outside.
Yeah, I thought they sounded bad on the outside is what we're going to be tonight. Joining me tonight is Andrew. Just don't kiss your sister, Jemison.
You know, I know we'll talk about it, but my gosh, this one moment in this movie is, even when I was like 12, I thought to myself, God, Lucas really had no clue where the story was going when he filmed this scene. That's the one. That's the one scene that I feel like, well, we'll talk about it. But,
well, they drop enough hints in this movie to let you kind of know that maybe he had an idea, but you're not wrong. It's still kind of weird.
Yeah, I stand by my statement on the last show.
Yeah.
So if you're one of those people that thinks I'm nuts, you fight me.
Yeah, you just got to find him in his little bat cave where he is with his new glowy microphone.
Yeah.
Yeah, like legit, his microphone is a nightlight. It's actually kind of cool. I might screenshot it later.
It's orange.
Is that orange? It looks red to me.
It's a reddish orange, yeah.
It looks orange to me.
It's basically, to me, it looks like Darth Vader's lightsaber if his lightsaber was the size of a Coke can.
Well, my Schwartz is as big as yours, I see.
Well, let's see how well you handle it. Also making his Cheap Seat Reviews, not also, but making his Cheap Seat Reviews debut is Randy. Other than to just irritate Luke, why did he have to crash on Dagobah? From the Soundtrack Alley podcast.
And that's a wrap.
Hey, man, welcome to the show.
Because he had to.
Yeah.
He had to crash land on Dagobah in order to find Yoda.
Yeah. I know that these are Star Wars movies. Like, you have to, there's a suspension of disbelief. I mean, on an entire planet, right? Like, that's the one thing Star Wars does, is that they make planets seem way smaller than they are, right?
I don't think so.
Oh, I've always thought that. Like the Clone Wars, it's like, all right, we're gonna send one ship to go attack a planet. And you know what I'm saying? Like even in Phantom Menace, when they go to attack Naboo, right? They send down one battleship with a handful of and they take over a planet. It just like me saying like either Naboo is way less strong. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like the size of Charlotte where I live. You know, it just I feel like there's enough rednecks in my town right now that we could have risen up against those droid army. Anyway, not the point. The point is that
Well, the droids did shoot better than the stormtroopers.
they do shoot better, but
you would have a better shot, better chance.
I still think that there's enough rednecks within the sound of my voice right now that we could have overcome. No, the only part of that. I know the point. Like he has to crash land. He has to have some adversity. He has to be frustrated so that when he meets Yoda, he can have all these moments. Like I understand why the script told him to, but like
that's the best part of the movie. One of the best parts of the movie is on that planet.
You're not wrong. Again, you're not wrong. It's kind of weird that like he's this really good pilot. Like we've established he's a really good pilot, except on this one planet. He sucks. Like none of his instruments told him there are trees in front of you. Like pull up. It's just his
Where's
backup.
my GPS?
Exactly. His backup camera didn't work or his whatever. But Andrew knows all about that.
Oh yeah.
Off air joke. So Randy, thanks for joining us, man. This is fun.
Yeah, this is gonna be a blast. One of my top 5 favorite movies of all time. So.
Oh wow, throwing it out there early. I like it.
Oh yeah, it's one of my top 5. I mean, I can name you all my 5.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do it right now. We're here. I'm going to put you on the spot. What are the other 5? Other 4?
Top 5. Well, is Empire is number 1.
Oh wow.
And then it is. And then I've got Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
All right.
Krull, The Rocketeer, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and Waterworld.
Wow. Your list is actually not that far from mine. I wouldn't put Waterworld in my top 10, but I do love it. And I really loved your episode that you did on Waterworld on Cinematic Sound Radio. That was the episode that I listened to where I was
it's amazing.
I got to get these two guys on my podcast. So
Yep.
I did.
It's an amazing film, and the film score is just fantastic. I love it.
And don't listen to Sean when he says it's not his top 10. It's like, no.
I mean, it's like 11.
He doesn't like say it publicly because he knows people will judge him.
I mean, like every time someone posts on Twitter, like, what's a movie hot take? I always put Waterworld is better than you think. Or when someone says, name a movie that you like that a lot of people don't, I always put Waterworld.
Mm-hmm.
And there's almost always that one person that's like, "Yay, I'm with you there," So, and then I've said this on the show before, but it's always fun to say. So I actually went with my family. We went to Hawaii the summer after they finished filming Waterworld out there in Hawaii. And so we drove down to where they were finished, and the atoll, the city, was there in the harbor. So I got to physically see the atoll from a distance of a couple hundred feet. But they built the thing, so like there it was. And so the production company sold it to a Japanese company, and they towed it across the Pacific and sunk it to be part of their reef, which is kind of neat. So
that is.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool.
That I think that probably did more good than the actual movie itself, but that's all right.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to be here.
Oh no, this is good. Andrew, please tell our fine listeners, what is Empire Strikes Back?
After the rebels are brutally overpowered by the Empire on the ice planet Hoth, Luke Skywalker begins Jedi training with Yoda, while his friends are pursued across the galaxy by Darth Vader.
Wait, what? That's not right.
Yeah.
Sure it is.
Did you just... hold on. Where did you read that from?
I just read that from IMDb, and I read it in my...
Oh yeah,
British
it
voice.
is on IMDb.
Star Wars bad guy voice.
No,
Did you know we have a Indiana Jones connection in this movie?
Besides the obvious one?
What? Yeah. Besides the obvious one.
Yeah. What would the other one be?
The Admiral Viet.
Yeah.
Or not Viet. Yeah, Admiral Viet. He came out of hyperspace too closely.
He is as stupid as he is clumsy, or it's the other way
Yeah.
around. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's as clumsy as he is stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was Donovan in The Last Crusade. And John Williams had the music of the Imperial March playing in the background when he first appears with Indiana Jones.
Really?
Oh, that's
Yep.
fun.
Huh. That's cool.
You want to know something else cool? Is there's a deep foreshadowing in the very beginning of this movie when they play the Imperial March in High Piccolo when the probes are sent out from the Star Destroyer.
So, just so that we don't get messages on Twitter, it's General Veers is the one who.
Veers, that's it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I was thinking of the other.
Well, every
Because he
time
died too.
Yeah, yeah. Whenever they said General Veers, no, Admiral Piet, he lives. He's in the next one. He's in Return of the
that's right.
Jedi. Yeah,
That's right.
But when Veers, they kept calling him Veers. I'm like, that's Carol Danvers' name from Captain Marvel. Like, I just thought that was kind of funny.
General Veers, prepare your men.
Yeah, yeah. But the crazy thing, like I never knew this until tonight when I'm watching. John Ratzenberger is in this movie. Like,
Yeah, I didn't catch that either until this watch.
I never knew that. That is so weird. Rebel Force Major Derlin is his name. But yeah, it's a little known fact that I was in Star Wars. I can't do a Ratzenberger impression.
That wasn't bad though. That wasn't bad.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, that was good.
No, thanks. I have very little. Like Andrew can legit do a handful of impressions. I can do zero. So
No. You do have a pretty good German.
I can't do it tonight. It would hurt my throat so bad if I tried. the pigs in a blanket. But right now, that's as close as it gets. All right. So no, when I was back to the read, what I'm arguing is after the rebels are brutally after the rebels. I missed the word after. After the rebels are brutally overpowered by the Empire on the ice planet Hoth, Luke Skywalker begins training with Yoda. I missed that part because I was like, he wasn't training on Hoth. Like, that's not right. But okay, I'm with you now.
Yeah. I thought that.
Hold on. Just the fact that they name drop Boba Fett in the read makes me feel like Boba Fett's actually kind of in this movie for more than one line of dialogue.
Yeah, well, going back to my random trivia from last week that I found, he was supposed to be a bigger bad guy in this movie, and he, from most Star Wars fans, he is the coolest person in this movie.
He is. He has the coolest ship. He has the coolest outfit, except for maybe Bosk. I think Bosk is pretty awesome.
Yeah, Bosk is neat. I mean, and IG-88 is kind of neat too, but like these are all characters that have been, their stories are cool because they're told later in novel form and
comics and
TV shows. Now, last week we bitched about, and by we I mean mostly me, but we bitched about some of the stuff that they changed in A New Hope. The one thing that they did that they changed in this movie that I really like, and I kind of feel bad for whoever was the original actor of Boba Fett because all of his lines have been overdubbed.
Jeremy Bullock.
Okay. Yeah. With the
new, you actually see him on screen at one point.
Oh,
Not
really?
Dressed as Boba Fett.
Just as an actor, just like as a dude. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, he is. He's the guy that when Luke gets to Bespin. And Leia is screaming, "Luke, it's a trap!" You know, he's the one that's holding her and pulling her into.
Oh, look at that! He got his face on camera. Well, at least he'll still get residuals because they went back and they voiced over with the guy who was Jango Fett in.
Oh man, what is his name?
I can't think of his real name.
They're ain't gonna make me look it up.
Yeah, you're gonna do it because otherwise I'm gonna have to. But the guy who did Jango Fett, who plays Boba Fett in the Mandalorian series, which is perfect because the age he's the right
Played
age.
by Tamura Morrison.
Perfect.
Tamara Morrison, but it's a guy.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It sounds like a woman, but it's
And
perfect.
He's probably South
The way
African
his
or-
name is spelled, it's perfect Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I mean,
Yeah,
who
he- and-
names their kid Dak.
Yeah.
Dak.
nice.
Yeah, and Dave Filoni has used his voice now in pretty much every
Yeah.
way possible in everything he's done that has to do with a clone trooper or, Boba Fett or whatever it might be.
Well, he did all of the voicing for all of the clones in the Clone Wars TV show.
Well,
And then
Which I think
I
is
wouldn't.
smart.
I couldn't tell that.
yeah. But I just love that like I just think it's great that they're able to bring his story into to life in the Mandalorian show. And I love the line when they're supposed to sneak into an Imperial compound and he has to take his helmet off and he's like, "Yeah, my face will be recognized." Like no one else gets the reason why, but like we as the audience are like, "Oh yeah, because all of the troopers used to be you." So of course they would recognize you, which is kind of neat. All right. So normally Sam would be here. He's not here. He's in Wisconsin. He's visiting family. You suck, but that's fine. So since he's not here, Andrew, you get to lead off with your 5-word review for Empire Strikes Back.
Okay, I have two. Best of the original trilogy.
No, it's almost word for word what mine says.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
And then number two, appropriate updates in this movie.
Yeah.
You did kind of complain about that, and I say kind of because it was it was a lot of whining last week about the No, I'm kidding.
Ass.
There was a lot of whining from all of us about the changes that were made, that George Lucas made to all of the original trilogy. But in this one, I'm not as offended. I feel like the first time that it's really noticeable is when the little car, not a car, the little ship is flying through Bespin, and you see the city, a little more of what the city would look like.
It's more open.
Yeah. And I think in the original, we don't really get that view.
It's just an establishing
we're looking at it
shot.
from the inside of buildings, maybe.
Yeah.
And the other update to this one that I do appreciate, and I know that, the OG fans probably don't appreciate it, but and I've only seen it once. Admittedly, I've only seen this one time with the original Emperor. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so it's hard for me to even remember, but I know that it doesn't look as good, and I think that using what's his face
Ian McDermott.
Ian McDermott.
using him in the prequels and then using him again to update the Emperor in this film, I think it's just appropriate. It kind of melds it together a little bit more because and honestly. There are probably people that would argue about it, but I think it's fine. I don't see a big issue with it.
It works.
Yeah.
I think it
It's
works.
the one movie that they didn't change much enough. Like they kept the original to its core to where you wouldn't have any problems really with it, the movie.
I think if they had thrown in a CGI Yoda, that would have made me upset. That would have bothered me.
Yeah, you're right. I think you're 100% right. Although the little add-ons that they did for this movie don't really affect much of the movie. I think they add a smoking, like it's crashing speeder once or twice in the in the attack on Hoth. There might be a little bit more, a few more extra shots in Hoth, but for the most part, the battle is pretty much the same. It all has kind of the same outcome. Nothing really changes there. The only edit that I also remember, and I might be misremembering this, but I thought, and I just don't remember. I know when Luke falls out of the trash chute and lands on the antenna, and then there's a shot showing something falling down. Maybe it's his gun or something. I don't know, but something falls down to the sky to just say, "Hey, we're really high up." But for some reason, I thought when Vader cuts his hand off, we got a shot of the lightsaber falling down. Okay,
No.
so you're shaking your head. No, I was conflating the two because when it happened and it just disappears, I thought, well, maybe they didn't want to show a hand and a lightsaber falling down. But
I have a sticker with that.
with what?
With Luke's hand and the lightsaber floating through space.
Oh, nice.
I have a sticker of an artist that did it.
Well, it is funny because my wife and I, we watch this. We watch a lot of these movies together, and my wife says, "So how in the heck does that lightsaber fall down there and then end up in the 7th movie in the basement of Maz's restaurant?" And I'm like, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
literally.
Never know.
As I was watching it, I think I watched this in 2 parts because I just couldn't in one sitting. But as I watched it, finished it last night, it was at that scene, and I did have that thought in my mind of, all right, is Maz here now? Is she like wandering around Bespin in the trash compactor? Like,
Hey, who knows? She could be an employee of Lando Calrissian.
Yeah,
She is really old. But like even in The Force Awakens, I think someone
She looked
says,
old.
well, they said in The Force Awakens she's been running this watering hole for 1,000 years or something like that. So I mean, she's really old. But like, I like the idea that, because she even says in the movie, someone says like, "How did you find this?" And she's like, "That's a story for another time." It was like, no, we want to know that story. That sounds really interesting. And maybe Disney Plus one day will give us a 10-minute short on the story of the lightsaber and how she was able to come by it. I think that'd be kind of fun to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of those that Star Wars Visions that we were talking about before.
Oh yeah, yep.
Randy, those are really good. Have you watched any of those, Andrew? Those Star Wars Visions?
I've seen, I think, the first 3 or 4.
I think we have talked about this
Oh.
before.
The Ninth Jedi is key. It's
so
wonderful.
Good. Oh yeah,
It's
that
the
one's
best.
really, really good.
Yeah, the Ninth Jedi is by far the best in the entire 9 episodes.
Was it Jedi Master Bates?
No.
No. Sorry, that's a joke from last week.
Did you?
Oh, okay.
That definitely made the intro cut. By the way, Andrew.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I had to. All right. Yeah. Okay. Randy, do you have a 5-word review for us?
I have 2.
All right.
First, Darth Vader plays his hand.
Oh, nice. There's a pun for you. I like it.
What you did there?
Nice.
And then, second, finally, some answers. Just kidding.
Nice. Yeah. I remember watching this the first time and being pissed. And you're like, wait a minute. This is how it ends? It's just because when you're a kid, you're like, I didn't understand that there was another movie. I just remember watching this with my dad going, that's how it ends? And he's like, yeah, you'll find out tomorrow. But, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I felt like I was watching Dune again.
Yeah. Well, that's
This was better. This was
Yeah,
better.
yeah.
I have to say, between Star Wars and Dune, Star Wars is way better. And actually, Dune seems to be an influence of George Lucas.
Yeah, it is.
For some of his ideas or characters.
Oh yeah, I mean that's George Lucas is admittedly, he borrowed from Dune and several other
Kurosawa films
the Seventh Samurai or Yojimbo. I can't remember what it's called. I mentioned that last week, but yeah, exactly. But I mean, a good second, if you're gonna do a trilogy, the second book has to have the bad guys have to win in order for you to have the to overcome and to triumph in the third story. Like you have to have that. I mean, and for some,
I know people hate it. I know people do not like the film, but it's the same sort of thing with The Last Jedi because the good guys don't win.
I don't hate The Last Jedi like so many people do.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't understand really the hate for it. Our biggest, and we've said this probably ad nauseum on this podcast, our biggest issue with the sequel trilogy is that there was no thought to creating an arc. That these feel like three individual movies that
Separate
just happen
movies,
to
yep.
have the
Well,
same
and I
characters.
think we said it when we did the reviews, but I think part of that is because of the different directors and different directions that the directors wanted to go in. I think had Abrams done all three of them, we would have seen that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
if Abrams had done all three, or if not Gareth Edwards,
Well, Gareth would have been good too.
yeah, he did Rogue One. I can't remember the director of the other one. Ryan Johnson. If
Ryan Johnson?
if
He
had
did
done,
Knives Out. That was good.
yeah, Knives Out is great. And so if he would have done all three, what I honestly feel like, and this is kind of mean to say, but it falls at the feet of Kathleen Kennedy, who was head of Star Wars at Disney. That's her job to be an executive producer, whatever. Which should have happened, and we know this now. But what should have happened is Kathleen Kennedy should have hired Dave Filoni and said, "You need to executive produce and write the story of the three movies, and then we'll have three different directors that can have their own versions, how they want it to look. But we need to get from point A to point B to point C." And the problem is they go from A to B to C, but they're three different like alphabets, So that's the problem. Anyway, we're not going to talk about those three. We're going to talk about this movie, a good movie, a great movie, a fantastic movie. And
It is fantastic.
It is.
And one thing that I thought was interesting was growing up, this was a movie that was my sick movie. Like if I was
Sure.
homesick, my mom would ask me which movie I wanted to watch. And I was like, Empire Strikes Back. And I'd watch it every time. And I'd watch it all the way through. And then it got me so excited to get engrossed in the books, like the Star Wars books and the expanded universe. And did you guys talk about last week anything regarding Splinter of the Mind's Eye?
No.
Because Splinter of the Mind's Eye was kind of a bridge between Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. And it was like a direction of not knowing if Leia was Luke's sister. And it was a different take and different. It was like, an alternate universe type story because she had kind of romantic feelings for Luke in the book. And it was written by Alan Dean Foster, but he does so much. And then did you guys ever read Shadow?
So I'll go ahead and tell you that
Shadow of the Empire?
Yeah, I've not read one single novel that's Star Wars related. I'm pretty
No,
sure
I haven't
Andrew
either.
hasn't.
I grew up on it.
Yeah. I read a lot of novels I wouldn't say growing up. I didn't start reading, truly, I didn't start reading books until college. I hated to read in high school. My mom would literally bribe me with treats and stuff to get me to read. And then I found the right thing that got me into reading. And then since then I've read a whole bunch of stuff, but I've never picked up a single Star Wars book.
Well, I recommend Shadows of the Empire because it kind of even gives you some idea of like what could have been a story between Empire and Return of the Jedi. And the cool thing about Shadows of the Empire is it was a multimedia project that it went video game. It was a book. It was also they did a full symphonic soundtrack to the book and the idea. And it was gorgeous. It was fantastic. And the video game wasn't that bad either for Nintendo 64.
Right. The only medium that I've consumed Star Wars in besides the movies. I've played a handful of the games. I played Rebel Assault on PC back in the mid 90s, and there's probably about 10 or so of the Star Wars games that I've played over the years. But I have on CD somewhere lying around the Star Wars radio play.
Oh, cool.
And the radio play is really neat. They got some of the same actors. I mean, they still get to do the sound effects for R2. They got Anthony Daniels to do C-3PO. Mark Hamill did Luke. I don't think Carrie Fisher was there. I know Han Solo definitely, or Harrison Ford definitely wasn't there because he wasn't getting paid. James Earl Jones is not there. Some of the other ancillary characters, like the guy who plays Wedge and stuff, like he's there. But one of the interesting things that they do in the radio play is they give you about a chapter's worth of material before the opening credits. So it gives you some backstory. Now, Rogue One has now changed that story. But in the radio play...
No, Rogue One didn't. Not really, because that was before Star Wars, not Empire.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like,
okay.
The radio play is for Star Wars, not Empire. And
okay.
Yeah, it's for A New Hope. So in the radio play, Leia is on her home planet of Alderaan, and we go with her on one of her missions where she's delivering arms and ammunition and food to a rebel base. And on the way back, she gets stopped by an Imperial cruiser, and the commander of that cruiser is sweet on her and was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And she's like, "I'm on a diplomatic mission, blah, blah, blah." And he's like, "Okay, do you mind if we inspect your ship?" And she's like, "No problem." And then they go back to Alderaan and they inspect the ship, and then he starts trying to court her. And he wants to marry her, and they go on a date, and then he gets a message saying that that they found something hidden on her ship, and she kills him. She kills this dude on her home planet. And so when she goes on the second run, which is when they intercept the plans, that's why Vader is already kind of alerted to her on who she is, because it was like they had already been kind of tracking her. So again, Rogue One kind of changes it a little bit because it changes it a little bit. But Rogue One can do whatever it wants because it's amazing.
Yeah. That's very true.
But the radio play is pretty neat, and there's a little bit of you get a little bit of inner dialogue. Like there's a funny moment when in the medal ceremony when they're all the rebels are all lined up, right, and then Chewie screams, and then they all do a command front, they all turn at the same time. In the radio play, Han literally tells Chewie, "Hey, tell them to stand at attention," and then Chewie screams, and that's why they all turn at the same time. It's because Chewie was giving the command to turn or something. It's kind of funny like that,
That is.
Anyway, one of those little things you can kind of retcon a little bit.
Oh yeah.
So,
you got a 5-word review there, Sean?
I have 2 of them, though one of them is only 4. So my first one is the best Star Wars movie. So this one, in my opinion, is the best Star Wars movie. I think it's the best film. Now, it's funny, Randy, you said that this was your sick film. For me, my comfort film was Return of the Jedi. I probably have seen that one the most of the 3. Because it's so easily rewatchable when you're a kid. Because it kind of looks the best. It has, the graphics have been upgraded a little bit. The effects have been upgraded a little bit. The space battle feels bigger and more like there's more at stake. It's, as opposed to a handful of ships fighting a Death Star, which you don't really get. Sorry, awkward pause. You don't really get the scope of that fight because you're only ever seeing 3 ships on screen, whereas in Return of the Jedi, there's ships everywhere. It's chaos, the chaos of battle. And yeah, the Ewoks are cute when you're a kid, and you do kind of laugh at the fact that little teddy bears with bow and arrows are defeating trained soldiers with armor. But as a kid, you don't care, right? Because and then as you grow up, you're like, yeah, Empire's a better movie. It's just a better movie. It's a little bit less. I know Star Wars is a kid, or like it's aimed towards the younger generation, but Empire just feels like there's real consequences and there's real.
There's more depth.
Yeah, it is. You're right. There is more depth. I mean, Lando is a complicated character. He's really interesting and complicated, and you get, more of the relationship between Leia and Chewie and Han. Like, we're getting a little bit more of these like, Chewie is ready to take on the Empire when they're about to take Han. And, like, there's something so awesome in that moment. When they say put Han in the thing, like, Chewie just loses his shit and just starts throwing stormtroopers around, and it's really great. It's this really sweet moment, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt. One of the key scenes that I love about Empire, and the reason it is my sick movie, is because I could rewatch the movie over and over again and just love every scene, because I loved the Hoth battle. I love that battle. That whole battle scene. I know we're not supposed to root for the bad guys, but I love the snowtroopers.
Yeah.
The snowtroopers are the coolest troopers ever. So I love those troopers. And then you've got the space battle, the space chase with the Millennium Falcon and the asteroid field with the TIE fighters. And can we say the music is perfect for that scene?
Yes.
It is.
It really is. That, honestly, the asteroid field scene is my favorite scene of this movie. Because you mentioned that. I was just curious, do either one of you have like a favorite scene from the movie or a favorite moment? Andrew?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's probably the moment that, okay, I kind of have two, but I'll say this one first. So the scene where Darth Vader is actually in the base in Hoth, right? It's just, to me, it's like evil is finally here, and stuff's about to get real. And so until then, you just, there's the troopers and the AT-ATs and walkers and things. So, yeah, but when you see him there, that, like, I don't know, it's just kind of a badass.
Well, like,
moment.
even when he says, "I want that ship,"
Yeah.
he's right there. He sees them escape.
Right. And but the other moment for me in this one is, and I know that people kind of hate this, but or people find it annoying if they don't realize what's going on. I love the interaction of Luke and Yoda. Because, and for a long time, I honestly thought it was annoying, and I thought, God, Yoda's just crazy. I mean, he's just this kook, and his personality is completely changed from what you see in the prequels and blah, blah, blah. But then I started to realize what's actually happening. He is testing Luke's patience, and he's acting this way for a reason. And it's made me appreciate all those scenes a little bit more every time I see him.
All right, cool. Of course, my wife asked the question, so why doesn't R2 remember Yoda? Because he would have. Like, Luke's like, hey, we're going to Dagobah. I'm going to go meet Yoda. Oh, I've met him. He's a little green dude. He's awesome. Like, it's just, or when Yoda does finally show up, R2 should be like, hey, that's Yoda. Remember me? We fought together. Like, I was Anakin's droid. Yeah, anyway, it's just, that's another list of things that makes me annoyed by the prequels, is that because the prequels take away from some of the, like, if you watch them in order, 1 through 9, like crazy psychotic people do in this world, you lose those moments.
Yeah, and not everything can be retconned,
Yeah.
nor should it.
Yeah.
But this is one thing that I think
It's plausible deniability.
I think in the third movie, isn't it, Revenge of the Sith, where something says wipe the droids.
Well, he says
Only
Captain
3PO.
Yeah, Captain Antilles says wipe the protocol's droid's memory.
Oh, that's right. It was just 3PO.
He was just
Not R2.
Yeah, so that's why it would make sense that C-3PO doesn't see Darth Vader and go, "Hey, that's the guy who made me." You know, I mean, like you have to have those moments. I get that, but again, R2 should be losing his mind, going, "Yoda, like we hung out together. Like I know him. He's a friend from work." You know.
Well, in the same facet though, should Obi-Wan not know R2 and
Of course.
vice versa?
Of course he should. And when he says, "I don't remember owning a droid," no, but you were
He
there.
never did.
Yeah, he never owned him, but you were also there when Anakin disobeyed a direct order to go into a battlefield to rescue R2. He risked his life to rescue a droid, and Obi-Wan berated him. Now, again, that's in the Clone Wars cartoon, which wouldn't be made for another 40 years. Like, I understand that. So, but that's the problem with all the prequel stuff, is that when you do that stuff, then you know
it's what it is. Here, this is it. When you messed with the past, it screws up. This is the space-time continuum that Doc Brown was talking about.
Doc told us about it, man. You're gonna mess stuff up. I just again, I actually do like the Clone Wars cartoon. I mean,
Oh yeah.
the Clone Wars cartoon and Ahsoka.
Star Wars Rebels is fantastic.
Rebels is the best thing to happen to prequels.
Yep.
Rebels is so freaking good, and I tell
They're
people
still thinking about making more seasons of it.
And it's original.
I would love for them to. Now we're gonna get a little bit of resolution in Rebels when Ahsoka has her own TV series.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be a blast.
Because
I love that.
when I was watching, I've said this on the show before, but when I was watching it with my wife, and Ahsoka in Mandalorian season 2 says to that Imperial lady, "Where is your master? Where is Admiral Thrawn?" I lost my shit. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's still alive. And
Oh yeah, he never died. Like he got taken away with Bridger.
yeah, but we don't know. Like we don't have any concrete evidence. But what that means is that if Thrawn is still alive, that means Ezra is still alive.
Mm-hmm.
And that means we're going to get a live action Ezra, which I am super stoked for.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it'll be.
I think there's several things to look forward to in these live action Disney Plus series that are coming out.
Yep. Definitely. But yeah, this is one of the best Star Wars written. I think this film was probably the best written and best directed. The sets, everything about the movie feels real.
Yeah.
It feels lived in. It feels gritty and dark and like the snow. And I love that one of the trivia things that I was reading, that Irvin Kershner and his crew were inside this hotel and they were filming Luke or Mark Hamill as he was walking out into the snowstorm where they were staying, and it looked like a blizzard. And so they could film it right like that. And it looked like it'd be on Hoth because it was a snowstorm. It was the best thing. It's like things felt real. Things felt like tangible and not as fantastical.
Yeah. Now, when you compare this to the prequel, I don't remember which one it is, to be honest, where there's a planet with like these giant plants and
it's the third movie with their own Felucia.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
In
That just
Revenge
feels,
of the Sith,
yeah. That just feels very, like you said, fantastical and just very computer generated and fake, and it doesn't feel like a real place.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had a second 5-word review, but I forgot to say it. But this is my 5-word review, and that is don't mess with perfection.
That's right.
And that's what I mentioned earlier, is that they didn't really mess with this movie very much. And maybe that's simply because it was so good, it didn't need messing with. It didn't need a bunch of other stuff. And, I know we bitched last week. Sam or Andrew's making a joke, but I bitched next week or last week. And I'm going to bitch next week when we get to Return of the Jedi. And I'm going to spend...
There is something in there that's definitely worth...
I'm gonna spend 5 minutes alone on Nub Nub. I'm just gonna be honest with you. That I don't understand.
Well, that was the original song that was in the original score.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not bad for that original thought, because it gave you kind of a ethnic feel to who they were as Ewoks. And you get kind of the feeling of that with the instruments still, even with the new updated score that they put out, you still get some of those instruments that are there, but you don't get the nub,
Well, it's not, I don't want to talk about too much of it, but it's not nearly as, there's no energy behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Because for two reasons. One, what you're seeing on screen now no longer matches. Like, you got Ewoks playing xylophone on dead stormtrooper helmets. I like to pretend that there's dead people's heads inside those helmets still. Because I think
they're just the helmets.
I know, but these creatures are savages, man. They decapitated those guys, and so they're playing xylophone, but it doesn't fit the rhythm of the music. And then we cut to like Coruscant and seeing the statue of the Emperor being pulled down, and we cut to Mandalore, and like we get to go to these different places and see, Kashyyyk, and we get to see Celebration, but it's all fake, and it's fake because it looks fake. And then I know I didn't mean to go here, but damn it, I'm here. And then they freaking put in Hayden Christensen at the end of the movie in the ghost form. Luke should literally stop the movie and go, "I don't know who you are."
Yeah.
Like, that's not the man I just buried or burned, burned. Who are you? Weird kid. Stop looking at me with that weird face. Like, hey, there's Yoda and there's Obi-Wan. Like, I know who you are. But, like, if you're going to do Hayden Christensen, then why not put Ewan McGregor there?
Right.
Because that makes as much sense as the other thing. It makes zero sense. I don't understand it.
Okay.
And he would be older. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, why would you put in young Hayden Christensen when he was redeemed at the end of Return of the Jedi, and it should show him as old self.
Right.
Well, I think the reason that we see him as Hayden Christensen is the audience now associates Anakin as that person, and B, if it were an older random Jedi, we might not realize who that is as the audience. But in the original, we didn't really know who it was either.
I mean,
before they replaced him, but we kind of did.
The audience knows.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing where I complain all the time about. I didn't mean to go here. I want to stick with Empire Strikes Back.
I was going to say, it's a different movie.
I know, it's a different movie. We'll bitch about it next week with our special guest next week. I want to stay back here because I literally can go for many, many more minutes on that, and I probably will next week. So
how about we talk about the set that is Dagobah? That it was actually elevated, and Frank Oz and his crew had to work underneath, and they had like 3 feet to work with, and I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
I just, that practical effects at its best, because even shooting the scene where R2 gets like into the water, and it's actually like a mud pool, but it's George Lucas's swimming pool, and they filmed it there.
Nice. That's awesome. I
And
didn't know that.
but it's just perfect. It's like all these wonderful practical effects and the camera work, the cinematography of the film just works so well. It's just it's a far grade higher than a lot of other movies that were even made during the same time because of the practical effects, the practical use of effects. I loved it.
Some of the stuff that I noticed that I kind of took some notes on specifically was that I was really kind of keying in on the puppetry of Yoda because again, we mentioned this last week. This is the first time we've watched these movies with a critical eye. We usually just watch them as fans, but this time I was watching it with, as we call it, the patent pending CSR glasses, and I was watching
bifocals available for us older folks.
I wear bifocals, so yeah, those are very handy. I was looking more at how good the puppetry of Yoda was. You know, like in the past, you just kind of take it for granted. You just kind of watch it and go, yeah, I know it's a puppet, but he's an alien. Like, you just kind of go, yeah, it's an alien. There he is. He's a little green dude, and that's kind of cool. Right. But as I was watching it this time, I'm sitting there thinking the detail in just his
intricacies.
Yeah, his facial expressions.
His eyes,
He actually has micro expressions. Right, it's not just the fact that his eyes get bigger when the X-wing starts to come out of the water and then Luke fails and then he drops his head. It's like when he's thinking, he can actually furrow his brow.
His ears move.
His ears move. It's just so awesome at how good they were at this thing. I'm saying, like, when it could have just been Kermit the Frog, right? Kermit is just a hand. Right, and it's just open mouth, and then whatever. Like, this felt like so
perfect
much
example.
More.
I'm sorry. Perfect example there is where he's talking about the Force and how it's not this crude matter, and it's not this crude matter. You know, he pinches Luke with his fingers, and it's like that's the puppet, and it's like it's so good because you feel it. You're right there with Yoda touching Luke and being like, yes.
Right. And I think that's why so many people when the prequels came out were so upset that Yoda was CGI, because it was done so well as a puppet. And it felt
Phantom Menace, it was a puppet.
Right,
but then they changed it.
Right. And
wait,
aside
what? Say
from
that
the
again.
fact
Hold
that
on, Andrew. Say that again.
The actors,
Randy, what? They changed.
They changed Yoda in the Phantom Menace.
Oh yeah. You're right. Yeah, he was a puppet in the first one, but when they needed him to do
no, they changed it again. Like, they had him be a puppet. The original, when we see it in the theater, he's a puppet. Later on, when they released it to like digital or something, or DVD, Blu-ray, they changed it to where he's a CGI character.
Yeah, I do remember we talked about that, Andrew.
Frustrating.
I think when we watched it for the show, I think I remember someone bringing that up. I didn't know that until I think we watched it, because I hadn't. The only version of the Phantom Menace I owned was the theatrical cut when they first put it out on VHS. Like, that's the only version that I have of that movie. I'm sorry, I cut you off. What were you saying, Andrew?
I don't remember, so it's probably not that important.
Well,
but I will say that the fans were rightly upset for that. I think because the puppetry was done so well, that it was lifelike, it did feel real, even though it was a puppet. I don't think we needed the CGI. I don't know why Lucas decided to go that direction, but I think
maybe because of the things that he wanted Yoda to be able to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way that you could have in the Attack of the Clones the battle between he and
And that's fine. Then make that Yoda CGI. I mean, the fact that, because let's be fair, that's not Christopher Lee doing that stuff either. That's
No, it's
that's
not.
somebody else doing CGI or doing the fighting. I'm sorry, the CGI, the fight is all CGI, and then they put the CGI Christopher Lee's head onto the body of the thing. So like, it's not, none of it's real.
Right.
So anyway, so I want to go back to this movie because I know we keep aiming at hate towards other places, and I want to stay here.
It's hard not to because it all blends together.
You're not wrong. Again, when you have these 11 movies, of which
There's 12 now.
what's the 12th?
Solo.
Yeah, that's the 11, right? There's the original
okay.
9, and
11,
then
okay.
and then Rogue One, and then Solo. So that's 11. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't count.
No, you're fine, dude. I mean, I went to a state school too, so I can't. I'm bad at math. Andrew and I, the joke works. You know, we're both music majors, so we can only ever count to 4. Again, that's a joke that only music majors get. But so I want to go back to the asteroid field. Now, I love the asteroid field.
So awesome.
What I also love about it is that, and they do this in all of the Star Wars movies. All of them do this. This is a trope that lives in Star Wars. For whatever reason, TIE fighter pilots are 1, bad, and 2, stupid. Because and I like how they make fun of the trope in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, right? So they see an asteroid field and they fly into it. And then they're like, they'll be too crazy to follow us. And then they look and they see that the enemy ships just went around the asteroid field, right? and they also kind of make fun of this trope in the TV show Firefly, where they're being chased by some bad guys and they fly down into this canyon and they're doing these really intricate maneuvers, whatever. And then they look up and the ship is just flying above the canyon, just looking down at them. And he's like, oh, I didn't think about that, right? And then they just end up hiding in the canyon. So, but in Star Wars, every time, if the TIE fighter's chasing the Falcon, which it's always chasing the Falcon, it's always that, they always go through like these intricate places, and the TIEs always follow them, and they always crash, and it cracks me up every time. And it's just, it doesn't, like, when you're watching it in The Force Awakens or in the not the Phantom Menace. What's the last one? Number 9. The Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker?
By the time we get to those movies, it's almost annoying. It's like, okay, TIE fighter guys, like, can we stop? Like, again, the Falcon chase scene on Jeddah, that's the name of the planet, right? With Rey and Finn. Like, it's a really cool scene because we get to see the Falcon really do some cool stuff because it's CGI. But, like, why would the TIE go follow them in through the decaying, of the Star Destroyer? Just go over it and catch them on the other side. Like, but it was a cool shot. But for some reason in this movie, I guess because we haven't seen it a bunch, it totally works. And also knowing that Darth Vader will probably kill you if you don't go chasing in there anyway, because he says asteroids don't bother me. I mean, he loses a Star Destroyer.
Asteroids do not concern me.
Yeah, I mean, there's this really great detail of when there's an establishing shot. There's the Super Star Destroyer, and it's blasting all these asteroids, and there's a couple of other smaller cruisers coming behind it. And one of the smaller cruisers gets hit by a huge asteroid and explodes. And then we cut to inside where Vader is talking to other hologram generals, and one of them, he freaks out and then disappears and dies. And I was like, that's such a cool detail to show that, that Star Destroyer just died. Vader just lost 2,000 men, and he doesn't care. So I love that, but I just love that the scene is so awesome.
Well, and it works so well. John Williams did such an amazing job with the score for that scene. A lot of it was Mickey Mousing, but a lot of it was just so well written. John Williams just wrote that scene so well because I hate to use this word over much, but you feel everything for what's going on in that scene with the music. The music just takes you there. It takes you as it bends through the asteroids, and the Millennium Falcon is swerving and going down and up and around and in this cavern, and then when they finally get to a so-called safe haven, for going down into the hole, which is of course the giant space worm. But that whole scene, it's just perfect. I mean, John Williams just went all out with that scene, and it's one of the best scored sequences for the movie to me.
Yeah, I agree, and I know we're probably going to talk about the score to this movie in general later, but I just want to say I think that this of all the work of John Williams probably is the best of everything that he's done. When we hear the Imperial March for the first time, I mean, that just sends and I know that it's straight out of Gustav Holst, it's straight out of Mars, from the planets, but it's so appropriate for this. Not only is it a work that is already about celestial things using, Holst, but it just fits. The bringer of war is what he's modeled this after. And I don't know, that particular piece and that particular moment where we see these Star Destroyers coming in, and you hear that, it's so
the rhythm of that scene, and the rhythm of what John Williams uses, the dun 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 dun, dun, the percussion that builds and builds and builds, and then you have the big brass that comes in, and it's perfect. It's exactly what you need to see on screen. And especially, Sean, when you had screen capped your picture of when you were watching the movie and you were showing Darth Vader's head looking out the view window of where he was, that scene seems to be one of those scenes where they use the Imperial March really well. Because you could see that Darth Vader was right there. He was in amongst his ships and everything, and he's on the Star Destroyer Avenger, I think it was.
Yeah, I think so.
But it's one of those perfect moments, and John Williams just, in every moment of this movie, there's so much musical moments that work and that fit, and that in other movies it doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, I love, I think, isn't it literally called Scherzo on an Asteroid Field or something, the music?
Let me look it up.
I
Force
can't
Awakens.
What did you
No.
What did you say, Andrew?
No, he had a scherzo on something.
There's Scherzo on motorcycle in the Last Crusade.
Scherzo for
X-Wings.
X-Wings. Yep.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's what I'm
Scherzo
thinking
for
of.
X-Wings is for the which I also love. I think that's actually really, really great.
That's a good one.
It is a good one.
I think that I mean, I'm sure other composers do this, but I think that John Williams is masterful in the way that he connects a theme to a character and then is able to blend those themes together with other characters' themes.
He just calls it the asteroid field.
It's just called Asteroid Field. I couldn't remember that. But the thing that I love about it so much, and again, I know, I mean, we're having Randy, you have a podcast that emphasizes Soundtrack Alley. I mean, it's about film scores, so I'm okay talking about this more than we usually do. But I think I think what is so great, and what we've complained about on other shows, in other episodes is that, yes, this is a Star Wars movie, but it feels like about 60%, 50% of the music we hear in this movie is new. It's for this movie. And I love that. And I one of the most egregious examples of this I can ever think about is when in Harry Potter 6, the guy that was the composer of Harry Potter 5 used the exact same tracks from 5 into 6. I mean, like he put the CD in and just hit play. and as a guy that loves the film score, that loves the music, in the movie, in the theater, when the moment happened, I'm like, that's the same exact music. I was so angry that I couldn't enjoy visually what I was seeing on screen. And then it happened.
There was nothing new.
It was nothing new. It was the exact same score, note for note. And I can even prove it if you go online to iTunes, the 2 scenes from the 6th movie, there is no score track for it. You can't buy it on the soundtrack because it already exists in the Order of the Phoenix. So that's what made me so mad about that one.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's funny and sad because Harry Potter, Harry Potter 1, 2, and 3 are John Williams. I mean, they're amazing scores, and especially the third one. The third one is really, really, really good. And then the fourth one is fine. I don't remember who did the fourth one, but then the fifth
Wasn't
one.
it Patrick Doyle?
Yes, it was Patrick Doyle. You're right.
Okay.
And he has a fine, catalog of a lot of really good music. Very epic. The battle or the games and stuff is very epic sounding. It's a lot of fun. But then they get this new guy in for 5 and 6, and all he had ever done is TV. So for him, music.
Desplat?
It's not just that. Like to him, music in a movie is just to get you as a transition. If you think about those movies.
Well, it depends on the movie, because, I mean, he did Valerian, and that was an amazing score.
The guy that did 5 and 6, he did Valerian.
Desplat? Yeah, Alexander.
No,
Desplat?
not him. Not him. He's really good.
Okay.
He did a bunch of stuff. He won an Oscar recently for something. No, it was
Shape of Water.
Yeah, it was not David Heyman. All right, now we're doing the thing.
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, I'm looking up Order of the Phoenix. Oh, this is the best podcasting stuff ever. But you guys are used to me doing this kind of stuff anyway, so
This is good stuff because, when Eric and I talk movies and film scores, sometimes we'll delve into a little bit of a tangent.
Nicholas Hooper is the score.
Oh, okay.
Is the film score. And you're like, yeah, I don't know who that is. Exactly. Because all he does is TV. So he did the Half-Blood Prince. He did Order of the Phoenix. They replaced him with Alexander Desplat for 7 and 7.2, which was the right call. Because before that, all he had done was stuff like Nature, the TV series documentary, and
oh wow,
Blood Murder, 4 episodes, whatever that is. The Messiah, The Promise, The Future is Wild. These are all TV shows, right? So he wrote the music for Harry Potter, which at the time was like the 3rd largest franchise in the world, and all of the music is transitional pieces, right? Think of the music that's really good in that. It's either a transition or a montage, right? It's when Harry is flying over, when he's being rescued and he's flying over the Thames, like nice energy, but it's only 30 seconds. And then the Room of Requirement montage. Again, there's a montage. But for the most part, like the battle with Voldemort and Dumbledore, there's no music. So anyway. Again, I feel like all I want to do is I don't physically feel well, so I feel like I have to bitch about things, and I apologize.
But here's the thing. You make a very valid point in regard to the music. John Williams, the man, has never done any wrong in regard to film scores. I don't think I've ever listened to a John Williams score and not said that score was terrible. No. Every score that John Williams has done for any of the movies that he's ever done, even the old classic movies of like How to Steal a Million, that was John Williams. Doing the Lost in Space theme, the original for this third season of the TV show, that was John Williams. It's like he's a musical prodigy, and it's hard to narrow down an idea of saying, okay, so where do we compare another composer with John Williams? Well, you can't, because there is none.
Well, yeah. I mean, I usually when I make reference to John Williams, I have to put him in with his peers, right? He lives.
Yeah.
His other peers are, Hans Zimmer's not his peer. Hans Zimmer's the next generation. But I kind of put Hans Zimmer with, oh gosh, my brain. I'm so tired. I'm sorry. He did Star Trek 2 and 3. Not Giacchino, because Giacchino is like the next generation. You know what I'm saying?
Williams. He's the next generation of Williams.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Who's the guy that he died in a plane crash?
James Horner.
James Horner. James
okay.
Horner, and the guy that wrote most of the Star Trek universe.
James Newton Howard.
No.
Dennis McCarthy.
Jerry Goldsmith.
Jerry Goldsmith. Yeah,
that's right. I'm sorry.
Like I kind of. Goldsmith is great. Goldsmith helped write the original Alexander Courage Star Trek theme.
Yep.
Yeah.
Star Trek connection.
Yeah. Well, sort of. So there's always like I kind of think of those other guys as contemporaries, but you also have to think, when you're thinking of great American composers, you also still have to put in guys like Aaron Copeland and Bernstein.
Mm-hmm.
These also people that were giants in their field. They were amazing. What Copeland did is still considered some of the best classical music ever. For an American composer. I mean, you look at Gustav Holst and Dvorak. There's all these other composers that were really, really great, and John Williams belongs in the conversation of those other men.
Definitely.
Even now. Oh, go ahead.
Well,
Andrew,
I was just going to say, I know musicians that, because he's a film score writer, don't hold him in that high esteem that they hold, for instance, Bernstein or Copeland, or Sousa or somebody like that, because he's a film score writer, and I think because the way that music is delivered to us is different than the way that, say, a Sousa March is delivered to us.
Yeah.
I don't think that matters. Yeah, I would totally disagree. Yeah.
Because he does concert works.
He does, yeah.
That's the thing. John Williams doesn't only do... when we buy a John Williams score, like The Empire Strikes Back, there are cues on the album that are concert pieces. They're in the movie, but they're used in the movie. You don't hear the whole piece in the movie. You hear portions of it, but when you listen to the album, you get the full concert piece, the Princess Leia theme. Oh, that piece alone is gorgeous, and it's on the album. It's on the soundtrack. It's not in the film. You get bits and pieces of her theme, but the concert piece that is Princess Leia's theme is only on the soundtrack. And it works even in concert. It's just gorgeous because it has those flutes and it's everything. But that's what makes Empire so good.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to move on here because I know we could probably spend.
I was going to say we can talk about music.
Can we do our three? our three things?
Not yet.
Or
We
is-
we
oh,
we
man.
still have a couple other little things I want to do first.
I got some notes we can talk about when you get a moment.
Yeah. So a couple little dumb things that I wrote. Again, I'm watching this with the CSR glasses on. So like, I should have had it pulled up. I wasn't ready for this. But like, do we care that
Yes.
do we care that when they walk out into the belly of the space worm, they're just wearing gas masks and they're not wearing pressurized spacesuits? Like,
No.
you know what I'm saying? Like it was watching it this time, I'm like, they're technically still in the vacuum of space. There shouldn't be.
But they're inside a creature, so there's its own. It has its own atmosphere.
It does kind of have
I mean,
it has.
what's the atmosphere of our stomach?
Right, but in fairness, there isn't a direct line of sight between my mouth and my tummy right now. There's a lot of, for lack of a better word, there are sphincters between here and there that are preventing the contents of my stomach from just spilling out of my mouth when I talk. And this was just a tube, right? Because the movie, like when they turn, they see the mouth. So it's not like they had to fly through the intestines to get to the place where the Minox live. Again, it's not that big a deal. It doesn't bother me really, but every time I see it recently, it makes me think of my favorite quote from Galaxy Quest.
Hey, don't open that! It's an alien planet! Is there air? You don't know!
And then he goes, "Smells good."
Yeah.
Seems good to me. Seems okay.
Seems okay.
We need to secure the building and arm the...
Yeah, that's the rest of the thing. So,
Oh, it's so awesome.
Yeah.
Have you seen the documentary on that?
I haven't. I keep saying
man,
I need
it's
to watch
so
it.
good.
I know. I need to.
So good.
I also wrote, if the X-Wings blasters... So we know, again, Rogue One, amazing film, but it also kind of ruins something because in Rogue One, we learned that the X-Wing blasters are powerful enough to break the back of an AT-AT, an AT-AT. So why not just use the X-Wing in the fight to defend Hoth? And my coworker, he was like, well, maybe they couldn't fly in the cold, to which I responded, but they fly in in space. Like, that's colder than the planet. And he's like, well, the movie needed them to have,
You have to set aside your disbelief.
I know that. Again, I know. And the movie, and of course, the movie does the one thing which is weird, is like, because then when the AT, when it falls, and then they shoot it and it explodes, it's like, well, why did it blow up when it fell, but not when it was standing? Again, it's fine. I looked at it as simply when it was operational, it had like armor plating that was activated, and when it fell, the guy hit, it stopped working, and therefore it was vulnerable. Again, nothing that really makes or breaks the movie for me. It's just a dumb little nitpick. But I do love that scene in Rogue One when that X-Wing comes in and blasts that thing.
But it's an inferior AT-AT.
Oh, well, it's a year earlier. I mean, it's not like it's been that much time.
Well, yeah, but the Empire was constantly trying to improve their models. Because, look at the AT-ATs in The Last Jedi. Those things were beasts.
Well, those are gorilla backs, and that's also 30 years into the future. I mean, they've had a chance to...
Yeah, the ones in Rogue One those were American-made company, and then the ones in the original trilogy, those were Japan. It's like Ford versus Toyota, Hyundai, something like that.
Says the guy that drove a Toyota into a wall.
I did,
That's
just
okay.
to prove that it's still going.
I've driven my Dodge into a wall too. It's fine. And the other thing too, though, is that the AT-ATs in Rogue One, they had their doors open, the troop carrier door, so maybe the armor had been compromised when the doors are open. We don't get the benefit of that in this movie. We don't get to see that, which is kind of
too cold. Why would they keep the doors open?
Well, there's a friend of mine, a coworker. He has a couple of fan edits, and one of those fan edits, the guy CGI'd the doors opening, and you see the snow troopers rappelling down to invade the base, because that's what they're for. They're not just walking weapons platforms; they're troop carriers, and they just didn't have the technology to make that shot work well, because they're stop motion. So then the repellers would have to also be stop motion, so it wouldn't have looked right. But they CGI'd it to make it kind of work. So I think that's pretty cool.
Of course.
Yeah. Let's see. I also noticed that I wrote down, why does it feel like nature is trying to kill them more than the Empire?
Yeah. Speaking of that scene at the beginning where Luke is freezing to death out in the cold, he's escaped the Wampa. I've never really thought about it, but Han uses the lightsaber in that scene, and
it's got an on-off switch.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a trivia question that maybe I've overlooked every time I've watched it. That, if someone at a trivia night were to say, "Does Han Solo ever use a lightsaber?" I probably would have said no.
Yeah,
but he actually does.
Yeah. It's funny. My wife and I had this conversation a while ago because she thought when we watched The Force Awakens, she asked me. She says, "So was Finn a Force user?" And at the time, I said no. Then we eventually learn in The Rise of Skywalker that he is a Force user, but we didn't know that at the time. And I said, no, he's not. And she says, so how can he use a lightsaber? I said, it's just a weapon. Anyone can use it. And she says, well, what they should do is make the button on the inside of the casing so that only Jedis can use a lightsaber. And I'm like, oh my God, that's actually brilliant. Like you have to use the Force to activate the button to turn on the lightsaber. So that way, if you, like, a kid can't just pick up your lightsaber and then cut your leg off, like only a Force user could use it. Like, that's actually kind of brilliant. My wife is brilliant, so
I think it's brilliant, and I know I'm going off on a tangent, but in the 9th Jedi animated short for Star Wars Visions, the main girl in the short, she activates a lightsaber and it's gray. And it doesn't become green until she's fighting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a neat story, because the idea is that, like, she hasn't chosen kind of which side she's on yet, and so the kyber crystal inside knows kind of her intentions, and so it doesn't turn green until her intentions are fully realized. Those shorts are really neat. I highly recommend that you finish watching them. And if anyone listening to this hasn't watched them, they're on Disney Plus. Those shorts are really good. Last couple of notes I had was, hey, what's your Imperial job? Well, my job is to clean up the dead bodies that Darth Vader leaves.
That's perfect.
Cool.
Andrew, you said you had a few notes before you wanted to...
Well, just real quick, I just had I'd never really noticed it before, but Luke in the bacta tank. I don't know who costume design decided that it needed to be a giant diaper, but it looks very awkward on him.
Yeah.
Oh, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then also, I just wrote down real quick, I'd never noticed before that Han actually reacts to the carbon freezing before the process actually starts. So his head kind of jerks up, and then the fog is emitted or whatever, which I don't know that it's ever bothered me necessarily, but I just kind of caught it this time.
It's probably just he just got tired of getting smashed in the face with the gas, the
Maybe
CO2
so,
or whatever. All right. We're going to move on to some stuff because, well, it's time to move on. Oh, I have some clips. I can't go to trivia yet. I have a few clips. So here we go. We'll cook through these pretty quickly. This always makes me laugh.
Excuse me, sir. Might I inquire what's going on?
Why not?
There you go. I like that part. That always made me laugh.
Why not?
Why not? I'm contractually obligated to capture this.
Why, you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder.
Who's scruffy looking?
We had a
I
plan.
love that.
We had a plan at one point that anytime one of us dropped the F-bomb, we would use nerf herder. I would insert nerf herder instead of a beep. I would just use that. But
For my time.
yeah, it was a long time ago. I have it somewhere in my soundboard. I don't know where it is. Here's the thing that Yoda says, and then there's kind of a joke payoff in it in the TV show Rebels. So here we go.
All right, I'll give it a try.
No. Try not. Do. Or do not. There is no try.
So later in Rebels, Kanan is teaching Ezra, and Ezra says, I'll give it a try. And then Kanan says, no, there is no try. Do or do not, there is no try. And he goes, but in order to do, I have to try. And he goes, I know, that's just something that Master Yoda said to me once. Here we go. This is this one.
I love you.
I know.
There we go. How to get that one. And
And then it switches in Return of the Jedi.
yeah. I love this one just because Lando just kind of he's just defeated at this point.
Chewie, just do it.
All right.
I love it. He's just all right, whatever.
It's like, okay,
because Chewie's gonna kick my ass. Time for this.
And now for some more bad news. Ready?
Again, these movies have so much freaking trivia. There's just so much to cover, and I'm not going to cover nearly all of it. There's like 230 something entries in the trivia
I'll
section.
mention just one. How about that?
Yeah, go ahead.
The ship, the Millennium Falcon, was a full-size model. It was 23 tons. It was 65 feet long and 17 feet high.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome that they built it. A couple of the other ones that I found that I thought was neat. The shots where Luke is using his Jedi powers to retrieve his lightsaber from a distance were achieved by having Mark Hamill throw the lightsaber away and then running the film in reverse. Just nice and simple.
Love it.
Also, when Mark Hamill was having trouble with the Dagobah scenes with Yoda, Frank Oz brought Miss Piggy on to make him laugh. I like that.
Yep.
All right.
It's great.
What Randy has been waiting for.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Top 3. Tonight we are doing movies with not Muppet puppets. So puppetry in movies that are not Muppets. And Randy, I'll actually let you go first.
Okay, so my top 3 are Labyrinth, The Neverending Story, and Return to Oz.
I've never seen Return to Oz.
Oh, man. That's a good one. You need to watch it. You should do it for your show.
If it's ever streaming, I'll be doing. Yeah,
It's
sure.
on Disney Plus.
Oh well, there you go. I guess that's as good a chance as whatever. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So the few that I wrote, and unfortunately, all of mine are pretty much all the ones that other people said. So I did the Dark Crystal, number 3. I actually did the Jurassic Park, the Raptors, the baby raptor in Jurassic Park. That was for Sam. So Sam, thinking about you. And my number 1, Randy helped me find this one, is Star Trek 3. The big dumb Klingon dog is a puppet. And it's weird and gross and dumb looking, but it's still a puppet.
Right.
And that's a Star Trek connection. So there you go. Twitter, we've got some fun ones on Twitter. Thank you for those for participating.
What about
Hold.
Andrew?
Andrew.
Hold.
Go ahead, Andrew. I forgot you go before the Twitter.
All right. So really quick, I have 3 in an honorable mention. Honorable mention to Team America World Police.
Sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Number 3, I have Gremlins. Number 2, I have Slimer from Ghostbusters.
Nice.
And number 1, I have animatronic puppet Faces from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Sure.
Nice.
Filmed in North Carolina. There you go.
Cool.
The first
Some
one,
of it, yeah.
First one, most, yeah. All of the farm scenes,
Yeah.
basically any scene not on New York City streets was filmed in North Carolina.
Nice.
Twitter, we do have, let's see, Jesse from Green Shirt Podcast says Labyrinth, Aliens, and Fred and Zed from the Puppet Core films, which is a movie that he worked on. So he's very excited for that. So I always want to give him that. Let's see. Jesse says, Jesse from the Sudden But Inevitable Podcast, Team America, Death to Smoochie. He wrote, that had a puppet or two, right? And the scene where Gamer where Dexter puppeted Phantom of the Butler. Oh, nice. Phantom of the Butler. Okay.
That's hilarious. Because it's Gerard Butler in the movie.
Yeah, instead of Phantom of the Menace.
Gerard Butler
Phantom of the
also
Opera.
played the Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah. I'll have to give him some more credit for that. I didn't read it the first time. That's a good
smart.
one. That's a good. Nice. That's kind of. Oh, and Sam also chimed in. Sam, he actually chimed in. He also said The Dark Crystal, Never Ending Story, and Jurassic Park. So, yeah, good job. That's that. And
Hey, I have 3 movies for in snow.
oh yeah, that was the other one we were gonna do. What you got?
Snowpiercer, Whiteout, and Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country.
Nice. I like it. I like it a lot. Time for. Oh wait, I gotta play this.
Wait, what's supposed to happen?
This is where we're gonna give this movie a score from 0 to 10, and Andrew goes first.
All right. I am going to give this 9.2 Nerf herders out of 10.
All right.
It is, like I said, the best, in my opinion, of the original 3.
All right. Randy?
I give it a 10 out of Nerf herders.
All right. 10. Yeah.
It doesn't get anything less.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's fair. I mean,
it's perfect.
Yeah. I can't disagree.
Out of all the Star Wars movies, it is the one that is perfect.
I do think it is a perfect film in that it perfectly tells the story it's trying to tell. It does have a couple little things, but that's not enough really to detract me from anything. I am going to give this one a 9.5. 9.5. What did Jesse call them? It was so funny. He called them horned llamas or something. Horned snow llamas or something like that. I can't remember.
Like the llama corns? Have you ever seen those?
No.
They're fuzzy and they have wings and they have horns, but they're llamas.
They're llamas. That's funny.
They're fuzzy llama corns.
Llama corns. It sounds like, I don't know what it sounds like. It sounds weird. All right, time for this last little thing that we do here. I'm going to pick a random clip and say, there you go. That was from The Perfect Weapon. How about this one instead? Excuse me. There we go. That's Darkman. I like that one. The quote game. Last week, our quote was, "Oh no, it wasn't the planes. It was Beauty that killed the Beast." I think we established
that was King Kong.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Andrew said it was Beauty the Beast. I think he's right.
No, that's King Kong.
I don't know. It could be. Yeah. This week's quote game. Again, your quote. If you tell me what the quote is, I'll mail you a sticker. The moment I meet an attractive woman, I have to start pretending I have no desire to make love to her. That's an old movie. It might be more difficult than our usual ones.
Can you say that quote again?
The moment I meet an attractive woman, I have to start pretending I have no desire to make love to her.
That's from My Cousin Vinny.
Yep, that's exactly it. Joe Pesci says that. Absolutely.
I've only seen that movie once, so.
Joking. That's not at all from that.
Okay.
No, it's not even close.
Don't throw Mama from the train. That's what it was.
Yeah, it's Sylvester Stallone says it as he's right. Sylvester Stallone's no Schwarzenegger's in that. I can't remember. It doesn't matter.
Neither of them, but
neither
okay.
of them. Bruce Willis. It's Bruce Willis, right? No. Okay.
No.
That's fine. All right, Randy, tell people, our listeners, how they can find your show and how they can listen to you and your awesome podcast about soundtracks.
Well, you can find me through soundtrackalley.com. That's where I do my individual show, and I've been doing these little short shows called Q Perception. So I've been doing that on soundtrackalley.com, and I'm at episode 129. Yeah, that'll be this Friday. Nice. 28 or 29. I don't remember. I have to look again. Anyway, and then you can also find me on Cinematic Sound Radio. And I've done probably close to 12 Soundtrack Alley episodes on there and 2 interviews. One is with Elizabeth Phillips and Weiner. The other one is with Lucas Cantor. He's of anime fame for film scores. And also check out my show, Anime Spectacular, on the Cinematic Sound Radio Network. And follow me on Twitter, Soundtrack Alley. And I'm on Instagram for Soundtrack Alley as well. And I just love movie scores. So, yeah. And you can email me, soundtrackalley@gmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you for covering me as I was sneezing and coughing.
We certainly appreciate you being here with us tonight.
Yeah, man, this was fun.
This has been a blast.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we probably could talk for another hour at least on just some of the score elements alone, but we all have things to do. Primarily,
I had so much.
Primarily sleep, but
I had so much I couldn't do it.
Yeah, that's the way it is. That's the cool thing about these movies is that there's so much to talk about, and I know it's hard to talk about these classic movies. It's like why would people listen to our version of it? Well, because we have a different opinion and we have different views. So, I think it's good. That's it. That's our show. We are Cheapseat Reviews. Cheapseatreviews.libsyn.com is our website. There you can find all links to all 370 other episodes that we've done. We have a Facebook page. Go there, facebook.com/cheapseatreviews, at cheapseatcast, cheapseatreviews@gmail.com. That's it. That's our show. I guess I didn't technically give this a grade. I would give this this soundtrack grade a P for perfect. I think that's what I would give it. And then next week, of course, we are doing Return of the Jedi, and we're having a guest come back on that we have had before, who is awesome, and we're excited to have her come back on the show. That's it. That's going to do it. So on behalf of Andrew, Sam, who is in Wisconsin, and Randy, this is Sean saying thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week for Return of the Jedi.
This is Cheap Seat Reviews.